Terence "Bud" Crawford is once again at the center of boxing talk. And this time, it isn't about his next opponent or another dominant performance in the ring. It's about the staggering number that his team has attached to his name: $100 million. According to Bernie Davis, Crawford's assistant coach and longtime member of Team Crawford, that's the amount his fighter deserves to earn for his next big bout. The statement was made during an interview with Mill City Boxing, and it quickly spread across the boxing world, igniting debates, disbelief, and discussions about value, legacy, and entitlement in professional boxing. Davis confidently declared that Crawford is now in a position to demand such money because, as he put it, "We've taken Canelo's spot." That single sentence carried a heavy implication: that Crawford now stands where Canelo Alvarez once stood, as boxing's biggest draw and highest-paid superstar. It's an extraordinary claim, and one that instantly raises eyebrows. Canelo has long been known as the sport's biggest moneymaker, not only because of his skill, but because of his ability to sell out arenas and generate massive pay-per-view numbers. To say that Crawford has taken Canelo's spot is not just bold. It's almost defiant of boxing economics. Yet Bernie Davis didn't stop there. He went on to say that if Crawford decides to move up to the middleweight division at 160 pounds to chase another undisputed crown, which would make him a four-division world champion, he shouldn't have to grind for it. Instead, Davis said other fighters should do all the hard work, meaning they should fight each other, unify the titles, and then Crawford would step in at the end to fight for the Undisputed Championship once everything is settled. And, of course, according to Davis, that final fight would come with a price tag of not a penny less than $100 million. He was explicit about it. He said, "Let them guys do all the hard work. Let them collect the belts, and then we fight for undisputed. That's it." Then he doubled down, adding, 100 million no less. Not 75, not 90. It's got to be 100 million. It wasn't just a comment. It was a declaration, a statement of perceived worth. But it also raised serious questions. Can a fighter, no matter how talented or accomplished, really justify such an enormous payday without the commercial foundation that fighters like Canelo or Floyd Mayweather built over years of pay-per-view dominance? Crawford is unquestionably elite, a pound-for-pound great, a man who became undisputed at both 140 and 147 pounds. His resume speaks for itself, his skill set is unquestioned, and his dominance is undeniable. Yet when we talk about the business of boxing, greatness alone isn't enough to command astronomical paydays. Boxing is as much about economics as it is about athletic excellence. Fighters don't just get paid for how good they are, they get paid for how many people will pay to watch them fight. And that's where this argument starts to crack. Canelo's massive purses were justified because he filled arenas from Las Vegas to Mexico, and his fights consistently drew millions of pay-per-view buys. He was the face of boxing, a global superstar who brought in both hardcore fans and casual viewers. Crawford, on the other hand, has often been criticized for lacking that mainstream pull, despite his undeniable brilliance in the ring. He's a fighter's fighter, respected, feared, admired, but not necessarily a household name outside the boxing community. That's why demanding $100 million, while simultaneously suggesting that other fighters do all the work of collecting belts, comes across as both unrealistic and, frankly, arrogant. It sends the message that Crawford believes he can simply show up at the finish line and claim the rewards without participating in the journey that builds anticipation, legitimacy, and fan interest. In essence, it's like wanting the crown without earning the throne all over again. Of course, Davis's statement may have been more emotional than literal, perhaps a reflection of pride, frustration, or a desire to hype Crawford's value. But in a sport where words travel fast and perceptions can shape reputations, comments like this can easily backfire. Crawford has always been known as a disciplined, humble, and serious competitor. He's the kind of fighter who lets his hands do the talking, not his mouth. So when someone from his own camp makes a statement as bold and exaggerated as this, it inevitably reflects back on him. Whether or not Crawford personally believes he deserves $100 million or wants to cherry-pick an undisputed fight after others have unified the division, the association alone leaves an impression. Fans start to question whether success has inflated the mindset of Team Crawford or if they're simply disconnected from the current boxing landscape. It's the kind of talk that risks turning public admiration into quiet skepticism. Let's be honest, Crawford has achieved what few fighters in history have done. Becoming undisputed in 2 different weight classes is a monumental accomplishment, and his victory over Errol Spence Jr. cemented his place among the modern greats. But demanding an amount that only Canelo and Mayweather have touched, fighters who not only won fights but also dominated the pay-per-view era, is another matter entirely. Those kinds of numbers don't just come from skill, they come from spectacle, storyline, and global reach. Crawford, as gifted as he is, has yet to consistently prove that he can generate that level of commercial interest. The logic from Davis, though, is clear in its own way. He's trying to position Crawford as the sport's top earner, to assert that his fighter's dominance deserves a corresponding reward. It's the kind of bravado that often fuels boxing promotion. Talking big, demanding respect, projecting invincibility. But there's a fine line between confidence and delusion. Saying we've taken Canelo's spot suggests Crawford has surpassed not only Canelo's achievements, but also his influence on the business side of boxing. That's a hard sell, especially when Canelo remains an active fighter who continues to draw massive crowds and command enormous purses. Even if we put the economics aside, the idea that Crawford should wait for others to do the hard work of unifying belts and then swoop in for the glory doesn't sit right with many fans. Boxing's beauty lies in the grind, the climb through divisions, the rivalries, the unifications, the long road to greatness. For a fighter of Crawford's caliber, the expectation is that he would lead that charge, not wait in the shadows until everything is neatly arranged for his convenience. The sentiment Davis expressed almost undermines the very image Crawford has spent years building, that of a relentless warrior who fears no challenge and earns everything he gets. Still, it's worth remembering that these words came from Bernie Davis, not Crawford himself. Assistants, coaches, and team members often speak passionately, and sometimes their enthusiasm carries them beyond realism. Fighters often get blamed for what their teams say, even when they had no part in the statement. But in the world of public perception, words matter. Fans and media alike will inevitably link these comments to Crawford, and that linkage could hurt his image. It paints a picture of entitlement, of someone who wants Canelo money without the Canelo audience. And that's dangerous territory in a sport where fan loyalty is built on grit, humility, and respect for the grind. The truth is, there's no denying Crawford's greatness. His performances speak volumes. He's one of the most technically gifted fighters of this generation, capable of switching stances effortlessly, controlling distance, and dismantling world-class opponents with surgical precision. But even greatness doesn't automatically translate into financial supremacy. Boxing's biggest paydays are built on a combination of skill, storylines, and star power. Mayweather had his money persona. Canelo had the national pride of Mexico and crossover fame. Crawford, though beloved by purists, has yet to find that universal hook that turns his fights into must-see events for the general public. So when Bernie Davis throws around the figure of $100 million, it sounds less like a realistic demand and more like a fantasy born out of pride. It's not inherently wrong to believe your fighter deserves the best. Every coach should. But to act as if the entire boxing world owes that sum, without the market data or fan base to back it up, feels tone-deaf. It's a bit like demanding the keys to a kingdom you haven't fully built yet. At the end of the day, this whole discussion highlights a deeper issue in boxing: the widening gap between sporting achievement and commercial success. Crawford represents excellence in its purest form, yet his fights don't always attract the numbers they should. That's not his fault alone. It's also a symptom of how fragmented the sport has become. But if Team Crawford truly wants to push for 9-figure paydays, they'll need more than championship belts. They'll need blockbuster fights, crossover appeal, and a storyline that pulls in casual fans. Until then, the idea of $100 million for a fight in a new division where Crawford has yet to make his mark feels like wishful thinking. It may even risk alienating fans who admire his hard work and humility. Because at its core, boxing fans respect authenticity. The fighter who earns his place, not the one who claims it by declaration. So as the dust settles from Bernie Davis's comments, one thing becomes clear. The conversation isn't just about money. It's about perception, legacy, and what it truly means to be the face of boxing. Whether Crawford addresses these statements or not, they've already sparked a debate that won't fade easily. Can skill alone make you the sport's highest-paid fighter? Or does fame and fanfare still rule the ring? That's the real question beneath the surface of this $100 million claim. And as always, only time, and perhaps the next big fight, will tell where Terence Crawford truly stands in the hierarchy of boxing's elite.